Get in, nerds. We are playing Victoria 3. We are playing as France. It's been a while, and it's time to Orleanism max. So, what are we gonna do here? We are gonna play as France. We're going to do some colonization in Africa. We got an inn already, so if I can do my usual slide in this way and lock down Britain, I will do my level best. We're gonna try to develop a global empire to the greatest extent possible. We don't currently have one, unlike our neighbors, the British, but we'll do our best. So, we're also gonna try to use a little bit more of the diplomacy system to try to get more of what we want. So, let's talk a little bit about how we want to start. Well, let's talk about our starting position. We are ruled by King Louis Philippe d'Orléans. The heir is Ferdinand Philippe d'Orléans. Both of these guys are reasonably good characters. Our base ideology is Orleanism, and that's what we're going to hold on to for the entire game. So what are they like? They like landed and wealth voting. They like laissez-faire. They like interventionism, okay. They like free trade. They like monarchy. In terms of our laws, we're mostly there. We're still doing protectionism. I think that's probably the place we want to stay. We'll see. I think we may go fully into laissez-faire economics, but for the moment, that's where we're going to stay, because we don't want to upset too many people here while we get our rule consolidated. And this divided monarchists thing is going to be a big part of the early game here. I'm going to tell you more about that as we go along. For politics, we got a wealth voting monarchy. So this is a voting system that is inegalitarian in character. Only pops with a wealth of 25 or above are going to get votes. That's going to be a lot of aristocrats, a lot of industrialists, and a certain number of officers, priests, and shopkeepers. Some academics. We'll see about that. For citizenship, we have cultural exclusion. It's a very liberal citizenship type. For church and state, we have freedom of conscience. This is the one that I gravitate towards. It's going to give us a little bit of extra acceptance for pops of state religions and for ones that share religious traits. So that is to say, Catholics, I want to say, yes, are getting 20 acceptance. Everyone who's a Christian but not a Catholic is going to get 15. So, generally speaking, we have a broad citizenship laws. We got appointed bureaucrats. We got a professional army. We got a national guard. I'm not a huge fan of a national guard. I rarely do a national guard. But I think we'll do our best to take good, solid advantage of that. Economics, we got interventionism and protectionism and per capita taxation. Really, really good place to start. We have colonial resettlement, which is excellent. Top-notch place to start with colonization. We have a dedicated police force. That's also extremely good. We've got a public education system. That's fantastic. We don't have a health system. We have censorship, which is all right. And we have propertied women, which is rad, and we have no migration controls. We do have poor laws started. In terms of institutions, we've got a little way to flex up for education, and a little way to flex up for colonial affairs. That's something we're definitely going to need to focus on, because we're going to be doing some colonization around this game. Social Security, we've got, yeah, here we go. So we got some welfare. Let's see what kind of expenses that's imposing on our government. Very little for the moment. Each level of institutions costs 333 bureaucracy, so it's going to be a bit before we can get these up to a reasonable rate. I thought that National Guard improved food security, but perhaps I am incorrect. Anyway, so getting these up a little higher is going to be a priority in the kind of middle term, once we've sort of focused on getting our economy really, really running at a good clip. Consumption taxes, we've got wine and liquor. Those are both producing a good amount of cash flow. And then let's take a look at our technology. Starting as France, we are in a really rock-solid state. We've got all the Tier 1s in production, and then in Tier 2, we start the game with intensive agriculture, Atmo pump engine, mechanical tools, and railways. Super duper good place to start. Military, same deal. We've already got power of the purse in the screw frigate, so we're not going to spend any extra time spreading with those text spreading. We got all the Tier 1s, we've already got percussion cap, and we've already got general staff, which means we start the game with skirmish infantry. It's a very solid advantage. We're going to need to work pretty hard to keep it, and work pretty hard to keep it we shall. In terms of society, we've already got all the Tier 1s, including banking. We've got corporate charters, central banking, central archives, egalitarianism, and dialectics. So we're doing really, really well technologically. We are producing a little bit of extra innovation from our universities. We're going to need to increase that to stay ahead of the tech curve. So let's take a moment to look at the primary journal entry we're having to deal with, the Divided Monarchists. Current status, the House of Orléans remains secure. These three dynastic lines have claims on the French throne. The Orléanists, who back the constitutional July Monarchy established in 1830, the Légitimistes, who support the deposed Charles X de Bourbon and his descendants, and the Bonapartistes, who seek to restore Napoleon Bonaparte's family to power. All three dynastic monarchists vie with the powers that be and each other to see their particular claimant put upon the throne of France. This will complete if one of the three vying dynasties has cemented its rule over France. If completed, the leading dynastic ideology will have an event to put their own candidate on the French throne. This will fail if any particular movement if the radical movement becomes insurrectionary. So we're going to need to deal with that. Or France is in a civil war, or turmoil in Ile-de-France. Or I think these are and conditions. So the radical movement needs to be insurrectionary, and there needs to be either a revolution or turmoil in Ile-de-France equal to or greater than 25%, currently 0%. So, to start out, let's grab our radical movement and suppress them. Orleanist movement probably needs to be bolstered. Can I afford it? The authority cost is significant, but the impact is also significant. I don't think so. I think they'll remain where they are. I don't necessarily need them as a movement for now. Let's throw in a few more consumption taxes. Services are always a good place to start for that. Luxury clothes looks like will produce a pretty good return overall. So let's snag both of those. And that's basically going to be what we got. Now, we do have a corporation to start. Dolphus Meag, etc. This is a clothing and a textile and coal corporation. I'm going to grant them investment rights with one of our free company charters. That just makes sense. They have the ability to produce designer clothes, which they hopefully will start doing. What's their ability? Extra assimilation. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. They're headed by Executive Jean Dolphus. He is a direct, ambitious, basic entrepreneur aligned with the industrialists. He's a market liberal, which should not shock anyone. Alright. In terms of technology, we do start in an excellent spot. I could snag nationalism. That would do some useful stuff for us. Another option is... could look over at some of this other stuff. Let me see. A little bit extra influence would be nice from psychiatry. I am getting a little bit of a bonus from empiricism, but not that much of one. Getting realism early would be good. On the other hand, staying ahead militarily is important. On the other hand, there's a lot of good stuff here in production. Got access to nitro and water tube boiler. This is going to make our mines much more profitable. We also got access to canneries and baking powder. Those are really nice. Mechanical workshops is a good target. Chemical bleaching is rock solid. Let's do water tube boiler. Mechanical workshops. Then we'll circle back to military. I don't need hydraulic cranes. That'll sort itself out on its own. Let's do fieldworks. Logistics is extra conscriptable battalions, but that's going to lead us up to triage, which is going to help us win wars. Because of the extra recovery rate. Let me see. Do we have a visual to what's going to... Okay, so I'm just going to break down this event a little bit more, and this is going to inform what we do going forward. Each of these houses is going to have monthly progress. We want to contribute to the progress of the Orleanists, and stymie the progress of the Legitimists and the Bonapartists. So, Orleanists get progress from clout of Orleanist characters, from industrial building levels, from clout of Orleanist interest groups, from political support of the Orleanist movement, and some from other events. The Legitimists get the same, except instead of industrial buildings, they get agriculture buildings, and of course the other ones are for their own movements and their own characters. Bonapartists, it's the same, except for their own movement and their own characters, but they get extras from military building levels. What that means is that the first thing we're going to do is decrease the size of the army, because we don't need quite so many of these building levels. This is going to save us a little bit of cash. I'm going to drop 10 off the second corps to make them the same size as the first corps. I'm actually going to make them a little bit smaller than the first corps. First corps I'll leave the same size. Third corps is alright from a size perspective. Army of Africa, let's drop off 5 more. Do I really want to keep the... I actually want to decrease these in size further. So, let's drop off 5 units of Lancers from the second corps. From the first corps, we'll drop another 5 units of infantry. And for the third corps, we'll drop 5 more units of infantry. For the Army of Africa, we'll do the same. This is going to save us some money, but more importantly, it's going to offer a whole lot of... a significant reduction in the size of Bonapartist support going forward. We may need to continue to decrease the size of the military. We'll work on that later. We'll start by building up a little bit more of the construction sector. I want to get to 5 levels in Rhône. We are a little bit short on infrastructure in the French Low Countries, so we're going to need a railway there. Iron mines not all using the condensing pump engine. That's pretty good. Oh, I haven't looked at our freaking economy yet. Well, we'll deal with that in a moment. Railway here. We'll just get that queued in. Don't have access to steam trains yet. We'll need to deal with that. Ports, we'll just go to cargo ports. No reason not to. Fishing wharves, we'll go to fishing trawlers. Government admin, how are we broken down here? French Algiers doesn't have a standardized filing system. Let's go ahead and implement that. It's going to get us a little bit of extra bureaucracy. No reason to get silly with that. Urban centers, we are using market squares. Some places we have gas street lights. Let me see. Oh, this might only be in Paris. Yep. Only in Ile-de-France. That makes sense. That makes sense. No changes there. Other than that, we got our basic production methods rolling. We do have the Atmo pump engine active for our mines. For our livestock ranches, we're doing everything. We got wool gathering and slaughterhouses active everywhere except for Corsica. Let's go ahead and implement slaughterhouses there. And French Algiers, we do not have these more productive methods. That's a little curious. But I think maybe we'll leave that for now. We do have an event chain called the Conquest of Algeria, which I will look into in a little bit. Wheat farms, we have Ile-de-France using soil enriching farming, and everywhere else, I think, using simple farming. Oh no, Rhône is also using... Okay, so we have a few areas using soil enriched farming, but most places are using basic farming, and in fact, that's caused us a little bit of a shortage of fertilizer. So we'll definitely need to get a little bit more fertilizer. We got munitions plants and artillery foundries and arms industries all already running. 10 out of 10. Very pleased with that. Can't nationalize any of those, probably because they're all national. We got some military shipyards and some shipyards. A couple of steel mills, a lot of paper mills, quite a bit of tooling workshops, some extremely unproductive glass works. Nobody needs the glass, I guess. A little split on how much luxury furniture we're producing from our furniture manufactories. Same deal with our textile industry. And then food industries, we're producing a little bit of extra liquor, but not that much. We are using sweeteners for these. And we got a pretty good sized textile and furniture industry to get going with. So overall, economy's in a really good spot. Let's talk about international relations. Britain is a little wary of us. I'm going to go ahead and improve relations with them. I do not want to be fighting Britain early on in the game. Let's take a look at some likely rivalry targets. There should be quite a few. There aren't that many. I could rival the Ottomans. They're a good target. The Netherlands, they're a good target. I could rival Britain. I don't necessarily want to do that, but I would like to rival Prussia. They're a perennial, a long-term enemy of the French monarchy. In terms of other European GPs, we'll improve relations with Austria. We'll improve relations with Spain. Improve relations with Russia. Improve relations with the United States. And right away, let's see if we can't get ourselves a defensive pact with the USA. They do seem quite pleased. Will you give me any cash for that? As always, it's very hard to get a really good, solid amount of cash flow from treaties, but, you know, we'll see. They would like investment rights. Would they allow me to invest in their country? They would. So that's something fun. What about privileged trade? They would also accept this. Ooh, they added an owe obligation and ask for obligation buttons. That's nice. Okay, very good. Could I get a state? No, that's never gonna happen. I've seen the spiffing Brit video at this point. I'm not gonna run like that. I think that's a little extreme. But we will get this because the United States is a good country to be in a defensive pact with. So I'll go ahead and send the Declaration of Leonardtown. We'll send that proposal. Now, I've already got quite a few defensive pacts, I believe. Yes, I've got defensive pacts with Spain and Portugal. I would love to have another with Austria because I think they're natural allies. So let's go ahead and draft ourselves a treaty. They also have an alliance. They wouldn't necessarily want a defensive pact. So I'll have to sweeten the deal if I want to give them that. Power Block Embassy, not useful to them. Let me see. Can I... Under law commitments, I can't really, like... I don't think I'll be able to do much from these terms. I think these are... Yeah, I don't think there's much to be done here. On the other hand, they would like an alliance, but I don't want there to be a Germany. So, let me see. They don't want investment rights. They don't want trade privileges. What do they want? What do you want from me? Any goods? Potentially fruit. I can give you fruit. Wait, hold on. Dyes? No. Only the smallest amount of dyes. Clippers? Fine art? Hang on, I'm gonna try. Am I not producing? I'm not producing enough fruit. I see. I could owe them an obligation. That would not get me enough say yes. Well, it would get enough say yes for them to accept. I could give them a little bit of cash. Just a little bit, though. And they would say yes to that, which is interesting. 3K a week is almost nothing. I'm going to do it. I'll support you financially in exchange for a defensive pact. All right. Let me see. Anything else we need to do before we unpause? I don't think so. Let's take a quick look at our market before we go forward. We have a shortage of fruit. We have a shortage of fertilizer. So right away I see some growth opportunities. We're going to be short of iron. We're actually bringing in iron and engines. So we need to build those. So right away I'm seeing some opportunities. First things first, let's go ahead and build ourselves a fertilizer industry in Paris, in Ile-de-France. That's going to allow us to have our arms industry here, which is useful. Let me see. I definitely want to get producing a little bit of fruit for that demand. So let's grab some of our farms and start them producing. Let me see, where do we want? How about Normandy? We'll produce some citrus in Normandy, and that'll produce the fruit that we need. And we have a shortage of iron now that we're constructing. So let's focus on increasing the size of our iron industry. Franche-Comté and Burgundy both could use increased iron production. Where else can we produce iron? Where have we got a lot of labor available? We see quite a few places. Auvergne-Limousin in particular. Maine-Anjou and Normandy both have enormous laboring populations. So let's build up those areas as well, and we'll start focusing industry in the northwest, and that'll be good. All right, this should be enough to get started. Cash flow is a little bad, but that's okay. I can live with that. I can live very well with that. Let's unpause here. And after a month or so, Declaration of Brooklyn entered into force. Convention of Hradec-Králové declined. Britain colonized Kenya. Oh yeah, I need to start colonizing. I need to declare interests. Oh my goodness. What a fool I am. We'll go all over Africa to start. We'll go to Indonesia, and that'll be fine. Let's do establish colony. I'm gonna build colonies in all of these locations. Yes. Oh, this is good. This is a new thing that got added in the new patch. We can build a port for just a pile of money, which is nice. I'm gonna pay that cash, and then Kenya I can build in Zanj. Let's hope I don't get outrun by the Brits here. Going pretty slow in a lot of these places, but oh, you know what? That was dumb. I forgot. I don't have the tech for that yet. Yeah, we'll steal part of that. I just realized I need to be freaking teching up to ya boy. Where are they? Quinine. Quinine's what I need. So we're gonna start with that actually, and then after that we'll do water tube boiler, mechanical workshops, and then we'll circle back to military to snag triage, to snag fieldworks, and then triage. All right, I'm good. Sorry, it's been a while. It's been a while since I played as a European country with a technologically developed economy. Pretenders to the throne. 3 dynasties have claims on the French throne. The Orleanist line backs the constitutional July Monarchy. The Legitimiste line supports the descendants of Charles X, while the Bonapartist line seek to restore Napoleon's French Empire. 3 lines have risen to claim one crown. Once the archenemy of Rome, then the jewel of Christendom, and now heirs to an uncertain future. The days of revolution are fresh in French minds. Another now so soon could spell disaster. Blood may run in the streets before this matter is truly settled. Support the Bonapartist pretenders. The sway to Bonapartist Bonapartism character interaction becomes available. Increase the progress of the Bonapartists by 10. Stand by the House of Orleans. 10 progress for the Orleanists and allows me to sway characters to Orleanism. Support the Legitimist pretenders. Same thing for legitimism, or down with the monarchy. Republican sentiment, extra radicals from political movements, extra political movement attraction for the radical movement, and 5% of lower sternum pops become more radical. I'm going to go with the House of Orleans. That's going to get us some extra actions. I'm currently encouraging the Orleanists, and they've indeed gained some progress. So let's take a look at average monthly progress. House of Orleans, 2.2. Not much clout for Orleanist interest groups or characters, but we've got quite a few industrial building levels, reasonable government legitimacy, and political movement support of the Orleanist movement. 4.1 for the Legitimists, mostly because the Legitimist movement is pretty heckin' strong. Quite a few agriculture building levels, quite a bit of clout from interest groups, so that's a threat. And same deal for the Bonapartists. So probably we're going to need to reduce the size of the military further. I think at this point it makes sense to cut some of our liquor and luxury clothes consumption taxes so that I can boost up the Orleanist movement. Because the stronger that movement is, the better it's going to be for the country. Let's go ahead and pause here. Famine, where? French Kenya. I got my port, but that's all. Are we low on population? Yeah, seems that way. Let's go ahead and build a millet farm just for the sake of having a stable food supply. We are increasing the size of the construction sector as we go along here. Netherlands declares a rivalry back on us. That's all right. That's just fine. I'm not at all worried about that. The Austrians declined our proposal again. Tragedy, but it is what it is. Higher learning. The king himself has officially opened the University in Ile-de-France. Academia is beginning to flourish in France. Philosophy is the highest calling of mankind. Through philosophy, we can come to understand the very foundations of metaphysics, the nature of the divine, and the essence of virtue. It stands to reason, then, that only the most enlightened of wisdom seekers are fit to hold power. Society should be ruled by philosopher kings. Extra university building throughput for 5 years, extra political strength of academics. Let's do it. Cash flow is looking pretty good. That is going to go down as we continue to build up the construction sector. An agitator appears, Germain Chartier. My friend, what is going on with you? You are a Democrat. Here's all our interests activating. You're literary, you're pious, you're not a historical figure. You align with the armed forces and you support the liberal movement. That's pretty good. Can you be swayed to Orleanism? Yes. But the interest groups in opposition will become upset. Interesting. Your popularity is not very high, so we'll leave that be for now. Let's look at other characters who could potentially be turned. Jacques Lafitte. Really? I am not used to seeing this character named in the context of France. Perhaps I'm thinking of a different Jacques Lafitte. I think I'm thinking of a different Jacques Lafitte because the Jacques Lafitte I'm thinking of is a New Orleans pirate. I could sway him to the Orleanists. He's got quite a bit of popularity. He's currently a reformer. I can't sway this guy because he's already a Bonapartist. Hold on. Who else? What about you, Jean de Dieu Soult? You are a moderate. You also have decent popularity. Sway to the Orleanists. Again, that will make my opposition interest groups big mad, but... Oh, interesting. My landowners are not in the government. That's curious. But they are headed up by an Orleanist. So if I swap the landowners to the industrialists, I could have a more legitimate government, and that would improve the position of the Orleanists. Tempting. And what about this guy? Yes, Germain Chartier. I can live with the intelligentsia being a little mad. I can live with the rural folk being a little bit more mad. And this would increase... Oh, I see. You're a legitimist, the head of the Catholic Church. François René de Chateaubriand. Okay. Well, I want to have at least one Orleanist in government, so I'm gonna sway this guy. Sway this man. Siri, sway this man. So he's now an Orleanist. Our government remains contested. Our base legitimacy would be even lower now if we swap those fellas in. But I can leave it where it is for now. That should give us a little bit more ticking Orleanist support, and indeed it will. Cloud of popularity of Orleanist characters. Oh, that's much better. Yes, now our Orleanist movement is stronger as well. Oh, it went up right away. Oh, that's interesting. Now, what about these ones? Okay, so we're kind of neck and neck, all three here. That's very good. I'm feeling very pleased about that. Jacques Lafitte has died. So who's heading up the industrialists now? Jean Dollfus. Prussia declared a rivalry, not a shocker. So he's going to join the Republican Party with the intelligentsia. But for now, because Orleanism has a lot of free market stuff in it, that's made our government a little bit more legitimate. Has this affected our situation? Not as much. Not as much as would be ideal. Filing cabinets. The use of filing cabinets in the government administration has drastically increased the effectiveness of the state bureaucracy. The future isn't in flying like a bird nor in roaring along in a train. No, the future is in filing. I love bureaucracy. Extra bureaucracy. Restore information about our citizens. Extra progress towards ID documents. I do love staying ahead of the curve, so I'm going to pick the second one, actually. How long have we been recording here? We're almost at the end of the episode. I think I'll go to the middle of the year. Do I want to get up to any foreign adventures right away? I think maybe we'll go after Algeria. But let's actually, probably I'll put a cut in here because I want to go after Algeria. But I don't think I've got time to read out the whole Conquest of Algeria event chain thing here. So, that is all we're going to do for this episode, my nerds. I have had fun. I hope you all have had fun as well. And I will see you on the other side.